Welcome back to Football Daily, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, we need to talk about Chelsea Football Club. Now, it's been a big day today, hasn't it? Now, I know last week Joe spoke about the Roman Abramovich situation, but things have changed quite drastically since then. Last week, Roman Abramovich had not been sanctioned by the UK government. Fast forward 6 days, and he has. Now, this has affected a lot of things, and in a released statement from the government, it states that Roman Abramovich has been sanctioned over his relationship with Vladimir Putin and how he has benefited from that said relationship. Along with Roman Abramovich, 6 other oligarchs have also been sanctioned with their assets frozen as well, roughly estimated to be around the value of $19.7 billion. Now, one of these assets is, of course, Chelsea Football Club. Roman Abramovich has been the owner for a long time now, since 2004. Now, in short, this means that Chelsea can't receive or spend money, and we'll go into those exact details in a little bit. It would also mean as well that the government would have to give special dispensation for the sale of Chelsea Football Club, and no money could go to Roman Abramovich either directly or indirectly. Now, here's a little bit about the information and what we've seen so far from Sky Sports News.
And this is really interesting because given the significant impact that today's sanctions would have on Chelsea Football Club and the potential knock-on effects of this, the government has this morning published a licence which authorises a number of football-related activities to continue at Chelsea. That includes permissions for the club to continue playing matches and other football-related activity, which will in turn protect the Premier League, the wider football pyramid, loyal fans and other clubs. The licence will only allow certain explicitly named actions to ensure that the designated individual is not able to circumvent these UK sanctions. And the licence, they say, will also be kept under constant review, and they're going to work very closely with the football authorities. So that's in terms of how this impacts Chelsea Football Club in terms of these sanctions now that have been imposed on Abramovich.
Okay, so this now means that Chelsea can still run as a business and as a football club and can operate under a special licence granted by the government. But the sale for now is on hold. But it does mean that certain things have been affected. Like, the club cannot at the moment sell any more tickets to games. Only people with a season ticket can go to Chelsea home matches, for the foreseeable future anyway. It also seems as well that away tickets cannot be sold, so there'll be no away fans at Stamford Bridge either. Now, on top of that, there'll be no merchandise sales allowed, no player transfers or new contracts, and catering services will be permitted. So if you're going to Stamford Bridge because you're a season ticket holder, you can get a coffee or a beer or a drink or any food, maybe, that is available. Now, as well as that, Chelsea are still able to pay their staff, players and people that are employed by the club reasonable fees or costs directly related to running the club, like tax, maintenance, are also okay, and travel to and from games is fine as long as it's under £20,000 all in total per game. One question here, though, that we, I guess, don't have answered yet, is the average cost, roughly, for a Premier League match is £30,000. So unless Chelsea are going to be getting the team bus everywhere or they're going to go on commercial flights, things might have to change. It's also worth remembering as well, they've got to go to Lille next week, so maybe they'll get the Eurostar on the coach or catch a kind of commercial flight. However, I guess that might have been pre-booked a while back and already paid for, so that one might not be affected. But for, say, if they were to beat Lille and progress to the next round, God knows what will happen then. It may actually get to a point where the players might have to pay out of their own pocket if they want to kind of travel in a private plane or whatever it might be. That, I guess, though, we don't know just yet, so it's not quite worth making up scenarios. Now, Nadine Dorries, who is the Secretary of State for Sport in the United Kingdom, said, "I know this brings some uncertainty, but the government will work with the league and clubs to keep football being played while ensuring sanctions hit those intended. Football clubs are cultural assets and the bedrock of our communities. We're committed to protecting them." It's also worth remembering that over 10 people / companies or consortiums are supposedly interested in Chelsea Football Club. Now, what that means and how they will buy it is up in the air, but it is believed that some bids have actually been already put in before this sanction. Again, don't know quite what that means. I don't think he can agree to it now, even if they were put in before. But those bids were believed to be around 2 billion to 2.5 billion pounds. But look, with these sanctions, Roman Abramovich cannot make any money from this. Now, sources close to Abramovich have apparently argued that he is desperate to protect his Chelsea legacy and what he has built at the club. And apparently the only way of him being able to do this for supporters would appear to be agreeing to let the club be sold whatever happens, and it means that he doesn't get any money from it. As I said, a sale can still go through, but it would mean and require Abramovich to agree to allow the government to take over the process and decide where the funds go, which, as I said earlier, are likely to be over £2 billion. Now, the Telegraph have actually contacted one of the prospective buyers of the club who've insisted their interest remains just as strong as it was before the sanctions and are hopeful a solution can be found that allows the sale of the football club. Now, the most likely situation that is upon us at the moment is rather than the proceeds from the sale of the football club going to a charity set up by Roman Abramovich, which he said last week was what he was going to do, instead they will go to a charity or fund set up by the government. But with his assets frozen rather than seized, it means that the 55-year-old owner of Chelsea, Roman Abramovich, would have to agree to this. Now, sanctions will be reviewed in May, but according to Rob Draper, who is the chief writer or football writer at the Mail on Sunday, if at the end of all of this, Chelsea end up in administration, which I know sounds crazy to think about, but is a possibility, they will get a 9-point penalty deduction from the Premier League. Now, we don't know whether it will get to that, and to be quite honest, I think things will probably move quite quickly over the next week. Now, Thomas Tuchel has previously been asked about the situation arising at Chelsea with Roman Abramovich, and here's what he had to say in a press conference.
How much do you hope that the owner is using any...
No, listen, you have to stop. I'm not a politician. You have to stop, honestly. I can only repeat it, and I even feel bad to repeat it because I never experienced war. So even to talk about it, I feel bad because I'm very privileged. I sit here in peace and I do the best I can, but you have to stop asking me these questions. I have no answers for you.
Not an easy job for him at the moment, that's for sure. I think from a Chelsea fan point of view, I really, really hope he stays at the club. Now, apparently, Sky Sports News understand that Chelsea and government officials will be meeting on Thursday, which is today, to discuss and talk about the current situation that is arising. But a few points that have arisen from this situation are questions over contracts that are expiring. Azpilicueta's contract ends at the end of this season. Rudiger's deal ends at the end of the season. Christensen's deal ends at the end of this season. Thiago Silva has signed a new deal, so he's okay. But for those big three defenders who have played a pretty big part throughout this season, especially Antonio Rudiger, who Thomas Tuchel, you assume, really, really wants to keep, it seems as if Christensen might have actually already signed a deal with Barcelona. Aspie is still up in the air. Can they sign a new deal? Is that possible? Because apparently Chelsea cannot agree any new contracts. On top of the contract situation, I guess there's the loan situation. Chelsea have obviously had a lot of players out on loan. Can they then agree to let other people go on loan next season? What happens when all these players come back, and if they can't do that, then they might not be able to register certain players? There are a lot of questions at the moment for the future of Chelsea Football Club and what it means for next season and the summer transfer window, and as you mentioned, the contracts. But from, I guess, a personal point of view, I feel like the situation is moving really, really fast. By the time this video goes out, I'm sure there'll be new information out as well that I haven't unfortunately been able to cover. If you guys want to make sure you keep up to date with that information, go over to Football Daily on Twitter, where we'll make sure we'll keep you guys up to date with that stuff. A really, really crazy time. As I said, 6 days ago, this was not the case. In 6 days' time, there could be a completely new owner at Chelsea Football Club, and we'll be talking about that and the future of that rather than sanctions. But for now, that is where we are with Chelsea. Leave your comments down below, I guess, on your opinions, what you think, how you think this might play out. What will the future be for Chelsea? Will they be able to compete in the top 4, top 6, etc., etc.? Bit of a mad time at the moment. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. We tried to get it together quite quickly. 10:53 right now. Hopefully this is up within the next few hours, and so you guys get the latest information. Subscribe to the channel. As I said, check us out on social media, stay up to date. Like the video if you have enjoyed it, and I'll see you tomorrow in some way, shape or form. Goodbye.